Hi, Salma from Nordcraft here, and welcome back to the Learn Nordcraft video series. In this lesson, we're going to build a Linktree style website for 80s pop legend Rick Astley. In this lesson, you'll learn about adding HTML elements, creating components, applying CSS using the style panel, and creating pages. If you're new to Nordcraft and you haven't watched lesson 0, go and do that now and then come back here. But if you're up to speed, go to the Learn Nordcraft repository on GitHub and open up lesson 1 for all the assets and things you'll need for this lesson. The link's in the description, and let's get building. Welcome to Learn Nordcraft lesson 1. Okay, this is what we are going to create today. We have a nice picture of Rick Astley. We have his name, a little subheading, and we have 3 external links that will go out to different pages. And we have an internal link to About, which will show you a little bit of a longer bio, which is just lyrics to Never Gonna Give You Up. So if you haven't already done so, go to nordcraft.com and click sign up to sign up with Google, email, GitHub, Discord, or Figma. And once you've created an account, go to your dashboard page. So here's your Nordcraft dashboard, and we're going to click Create App to create a new app. So when you click Create App, you have a few options here. You may have a variety of different organizations that you're working with in Nordcraft, so you can choose which organization to create it in. You can choose whether the app is public or private, and you can choose a template to create a new project from. And what we're going to do today is start with a basic blank template. So once that's loaded, you'll be taken to the Nordcraft editor. And what I like about the basic template is that you can try out a few things before you get started building your own. So on the left here, we have the HTML element tree, and it just shows you all of the different HTML elements on this page. It's just HTML, so you can add any HTML element into your Nordcraft project. You can try out a few things such as the drag and drop functionality, which automatically reorders those elements in the HTML element tree for you. When you select an HTML element here, you'll be taken to the styling tab, which shows all of the CSS applied to that element. Anything that you update is automatically reflected in the canvas. So say, for example, we want to change the font size of that Watch Tutorials header. We can just do that here and it will automatically be reflected in the canvas, and we can still drag and drop and do anything we like. You can use keyboard shortcuts to navigate around the editor. And if you click on an element, you can use S for the styling tab. You can use A for the attributes tab and E for the events tab. And my personal favorite, which makes everything really, really quick, is pressing I to insert a new HTML element. And we'll be using that a lot today. Just to show you the project sidebar, this is where all of your pages will be listed that you create. We automatically get a home page created for us on every new Nordcraft project. Here we'll list components, services, actions, formulas, etc. And in later lessons, we're going to touch on more sections of the project sidebar as we progress. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to delete all of the example content so we have a blank canvas. And we're going to, first of all, edit the metadata for the home page, and I'll show you how that is automatically reflected on the preview link for you as well, so you can easily test changes and send things to people to make sure everything's working well when you are building and developing. So on here, we have everything that you can define about a page. We have the URL that the page will be accessible on, any path parameters, any query parameters, and we'll get to those in later lessons. And here you have the metadata, the title, language, and description. So we're going to change the title for our homepage to Rick Astley. We're going to keep the language as EN, and the description, I'm just going to paste in some very famous song lyrics. So to demonstrate that all of these changes are automatically available on a preview link in a browser on the front end, we're going to click this little preview button here. And that's going to open a page. Now, this is obviously blank because our canvas is blank right now. But if we inspect the HTML, So you'll see here we've got the title, Rick Astley, and we've got the meta description, never going to give you up, never going to let you down. So everything is automatically reflected in the front end on those preview links. So now I'm going to start by creating the yellow background and the container to hold the content for the home page and the about page. And immediately I know I'm going to use this container on both pages. So I'm going to need to create a reusable component to make sure that all the changes are reflected in both pages when I update that component. So I'm going to right click on main and I'm going to just click extract as component. I'm going to call it main. And whenever you see a little pink diamond of 4 diamonds here, that is when you're editing a component compared to the green page icon. So we're just going to apply some CSS to this main element here. I'm going to give this a width of 100%, but I actually don't want the container to go to the full width of the screen. So I'm going to give it a max width of, let's say, 600 pixels. It's going to be display flex. I want the content to start from the top of the container rather than being centered in case I want to add some more link buttons into it. And I'm going to use display column because I want everything to be stacked inside this container. I'm going to add a flex gap of 1 rem because I want a little gap in between each of the items. And I'm going to add some padding into this container as well, 2 rems on either side and top and bottom. And because I want this container to be centered into the page, I'm going to add a left and right margin of auto. And as you can see in real time, that positioning updates in the editor. And now it's time for the background color of this container. I'm going to use yellow 400. Now, all of these values pre-populated in this color dropdown, they are CSS variables or custom properties, and they're available to use in that format in any CSS in Nordcraft that you use for your project. So just to show you that, I'm going to go back to this preview link again. And you'll see that we have this yellow container, maximum width of 600 pixels. And the body tag behind that doesn't have any colors applied to it. Now, Nordcraft does provide you a way to style that body tag by using a style tag, an HTML style tag. So you can just add CSS into that using those CSS custom properties. So back in main, I'm going to press I to add a new HTML element, and I'm going to search for style tag. Now this comes pre-populated with somewhere to add your style in, and I'm going to just target the body. I'm going to add background color, and I can use that CSS custom property yellow 400. And already that will be reflected in the editor. Now, here I am using numbered shortcut keys. 1 gives you a very slim view, like a mobile view. 2, a bit bigger. 3 and 4. It's really, really cool. I use these shortcuts all the time just to check that my responsive designs are working. And again, if we go to that preview link, we'll see that now the whole page is yellow, powered by that CSS style tag. We inspect it. You'll see inside here, we just have a style tag with the CSS applied to the body using that CSS custom property. So again, to reiterate, it's just CSS, and the yellow 400 is a pre-built custom property that Nordcraft gives you. All right, so we've got the CSS styling for our main component set up, but right now we can't put anything inside this component to populate any content on the page. And for that, we are going to need to add a slot. Now, this is just a placeholder for any custom content that you want to add as a child of a component. You can name slots and add different slots for particular layout purposes, but all we need to be able to do in our main component is add anything we like. So I'm going to leave that slot as default, and you'll see now that we can add anything we want inside this component to build out our page. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add Rick's profile image, and we're going to press I to add a new HTML element and search for image, press enter. I'm going to press A to go to the attributes tab. And here you can see that we have a source attribute and an alt attribute. I know this is going to be an image of Rick, so I'm going to just add alt Rick Astley. I'm going to grab the source from the lesson 1 resources on the GitHub Learn Nordcraft repository. So head over to GitHub, find lesson 1 in the Learn Nordcraft repository, and copy that URL to the profile picture and paste that into the source attribute field. Press enter. There he is. Now you'll notice there's a little warning sign here. And this is telling us that image dimensions are missing on the attribute list. Now, image elements need to have a defined width and height attribute so that the browser knows how much space to leave when painting the page. This prevents layout shifts and cumulative layout shifts as images load in, which improves your user experience and also your SEO kind of optimization results as well, as Google will automatically favor pages with better user experience. So we're going to add a width attribute by clicking the plus button and naming it width, and we're going to add a height attribute as well. Now the original dimensions of this image are 474 by 474, and when you add those width and height attribute values, the warning will disappear. So we're now going to add some CSS styles to this profile picture. I'm going to give it a slightly smaller width. I'm going to give it 10 rems width and 10 rems height to make it a little bit smaller. And I'm going to add a border radius of 100% to make it circular. And I'm going to add a gray 900 border. And the width is going to be 0.25 rems. I'm going to keep it as solid. Now that's our profile picture. Now I already know that I'm going to use this on the about page as well. So again, with that kind of reusable component architecture in mind, I'm going to right click this image. I'm going to extract this as a component as PFP. And this is the component view of the PFP, the profile picture. And we already have the CSS and everything applied to it, so we don't need to do that again. If we go back to the home page, you'll see we've just got that profile picture on there as we styled it already. So next, inside this main container, we're going to add an H1. Every page needs an H1, a heading level 1. We're going to press I and search for H1 and press enter. Now here's where we define our text for the H1. We're going to have Rick Astley. There we go. And we're going to just make this a little bit bigger. We have the style tab here. We are going to change the font size. I'm going to change this to 2.25 rems, I think. And we're going to make this bold. And the color is going to be gray 800, I think. There we go. There's our H1. Again, clicking on main, we're going to add another element. We're going to add an H2 element for the subtitle. Just going to paste in, again, some song lyrics here. Never going to give you up, never going to let you down. And we're going to style this as well. So heading down to the text area, we're going to change the size to 1.5 rems. I'm actually going to make this one italic, so we can click on this little italic button here. And we're going to make this bold as well, because, you know, it's important. And we are going to text align this by clicking on this little button to expand the options. We're going to click center, and that is our subtitle. Again, we can preview this on the front end to see how we're doing. I like to always zoom in on my pages as well, just to make sure everything's looking good. And here we have our live preview already of our profile picture, our H1 and our H2. So next it's time for the list of social links. So I'm going to create an unordered list, and I'm going to add an LI item into it. Now, first of all, I'm going to create one link, and then I'm going to create that as a component and just repeat that inside each LI. So I'm actually going to create 4 li elements, 4 list elements, and you can just use your keyboard shortcuts for copy and paste. So I'm going to copy, paste, 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 and that's 4 list elements. So now we're going to get kind of a little bit more into the power of components. So first of all, I'm going to add an element inside here, and I'm going to add a link because I want these to be links to external pages or an internal about page. So we're going to immediately extract this as a component. I'm going to call this link. So on components, you can define attributes that come into the component. And so you can make them like dynamic and define different ways to present those components with different text, for example. Now, these attributes are not on the attributes tab for the link specifically, but they're for the component. And for that, you need to deselect the element in the HTML element tree, and you'll find attributes here. So we're going to define 3 attributes for this link component. We're going to have pre-render, and I'll show you what that means in a minute. The test value we're going to have is none. Now, the test value is what's going to show up in this component view. So if you want to test your component that uses attributes for different values, you can change these test values inside this component, and it won't affect the component when it's used in the proper context. We're going to also add a text attribute, and let's just call this for now test text, and you'll see that will be able to be used inside this component in a second. And we're also going to add the URL, and let's just create this for now as nordcraft.com as the test value. Now, again, you'll see we have warning signs on here showing us that we haven't actually used these attributes yet. This is how we're going to use them. On the link, we have a pre-render attribute and an href attribute, and we can use the formula button here to use the attributes that come in to the component inside that instance of that component. So if we click here on the FX, click on this little calculator, we can get the value of pre-render that's coming in to the component. So right now we've got none, and that's going to populate none. With the href, the link as well coming in, that's the URL there, and the text of the link will be populated from here. So you'll notice now that this says test text, which is the test value that we defined here. So now if we go back to home page, we have this link, and you'll notice that this says undefined because we haven't defined these variables that are coming in yet. So this top link is going to be our about page, and we can choose to pre-render that page because it's internal. This means that the browser will kind of speculatively go off and try and fetch that about page to make it load quicker when you finally do navigate to it. So actually, we're going to set this one to moderate. The text here is going to be about, and the URL is going to be /about, and we haven't set that page up yet, but we will in a moment. Then what we can do is we can add the next 3 links. Press I, and if we search for link, we'll actually see our link component in the list as well. So we add that one there, we can add that one there, and we can add that one there. These 3 links are ready to be populated with those data attributes. So the first one, click on A for attributes. We're not going to pre-render the 3 external links because that would be silly. And the text for this one is YouTube. I'm just going to grab the YouTube link from the full finished project, add the YouTube URL there. Next, I'm going to grab the Wikipedia link. We're going to add the pre-render of none for Wikipedia. We're going to add Wikipedia and the URL we just copied. And finally, let's copy the official website link. So pre-render none, official website, and the URL. So before we've even styled those, if we go to preview this page, you'll notice that we have little Mickey Mouse hands here. If we inspect this, you'll see we've got a list of links inside a UL, and these links will go off to what we specified /about, YouTube, etc. We have the component information here telling us what we're pre-rendering or not, and everything is kind of already done for us quite easily because we've used that link component. So we only have to build that link component once. So now we can style that link component by going into the component itself, clicking on A, and here's where we're going to define our CSS. So we're going to start by defining the default appearance of this link, and we're going to kind of make it look like a button because that's what Linktree does. We are going to give it a width of 100%. As you can see, the editor lays that out for us nicely. We are going to give it a display of flex. We're going to center everything inside it. We're going to give it some padding, 0.5 rems on the sides and 1 rems top and bottom. The font is going to be a size of 2 rems. We're going to make the font bold, and I'm going to make this yellow again. I'm going to make it the same color as the background. So we're going to also give this link a background color as well, and I'm going to give this the same color as the heading text, gray 900. And I'm going to give this a little border radius of around 0.5 rems to round the corners a little. Again, you can see that appearance is reflected in the editor. And that's everything for the default. And now we're going to create some pseudo classes to style the hover state and the focus visible state. So we can do that here. We can select hover and here, and when hover is selected, now below we are going to define the styles for when you hover over that button. So we're going to change the text color on hover, and I'm just going to use a CSS color, white smoke here. And I'm going to change the background to a slightly darker color, just black. So this shows that you can use CSS named colors inside your project as well, just as you would with any other project using HTML and CSS. And now we're going to add a state for focus visible, which is when you navigate with a keyboard, for example. So with focus visible clicked, I want to make sure that I have an outline visible when you are navigating on a keyboard. So I'm going to add a outline property here. I'm going to change the color to the color of the text, white smoke. And it's going to be solid, and I'm going to make this maybe 0.5 rems here. Okay, so that is now our link button. We've styled it. We've styled the default state, the hover state, and the focus visible state. And now we go back to the home page. You'll see that we have these buttons nicely laid out for us. Now, one thing we do need to do with this unordered list is set the width to 100%. And set the flex display and a gap of maybe 0.5 rems there, so everything is nicely laid out. And you'll see if we go and preview this and we navigate through this, we have the focus outline we defined, and when we hover over that, everything changes as well. And one thing I really like doing when you do hover over something or indicate interaction, it's increasing the contrast. Now, what I've noticed here is that when you're hovering, it's kind of a little bit like abrupt when you hover over or when you focus over. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a transition to the default style, and we're going to transition all, and I'm going to leave it at that just because it's quite a nice default transition style. So when we go back to the preview, when you focus and you navigate, you'll see that the outline and the color changes happen kind of on a little transition, on a 300 milliseconds transition where everything is changing a little less abruptly. So that's our homepage styled. We've got a main component, we've got a profile picture component, we've got an H1 and H2 and a list with a link component inside it. And now we're ready to make the about page. So next we're going to make the about page, but I do want to alert you to one more keyboard shortcut that I haven't mentioned yet. Now we've been going to the preview link to look at our changes in a browser tab to make sure everything's updated and working as it should. But you can also do that inside the Nordcraft editor by pressing T. And everything here will work as expected, as it would in a browser. So you can focus with the keyboard, you can hover and see that transition and see everything working correctly without having to navigate out of the editor. So to create the About page, we'll press Command K to go to the project sidebar. We're going to add a new page by clicking plus here next to Pages. So on this page, you can define the name. I'm going to call it About, and it will automatically pre-populate you the URL path /about, and we're going to click Create. So the first thing we're going to do is change the About metadata for this page. So we're going to have About Rick Astley. Language is going to be EN, and Rick Astley's bio for the description. A nice, simple one. That description is too short, but it doesn't matter. All right, so what we're going to do now is first of all, delete this default div that's been added and press I to add our main component. So the background is yellow. We're also going to add the PFP component. It's already pre-done for you. And then we're going to add another H1 again, and we're going to call this About Rick Astley. What we can actually do is to ensure that this H1 looks the same as the homepage H1, we can actually create a component out of the H1. But what we can also do is copy and paste it. So copy with Control C or Command C, and then go back to the About page, and we can just paste it in there. So we can delete that one and change this to About Rick Astley. So copying and pasting will preserve all of the CSS applied to that element. Next, we're going to add a div to act as a container for some paragraphs for Rick's bio. So we're going to use I to open up the catalog, search for a div, and enter it there. Then we're going to press I again and search for paragraph, and we're going to add 4 paragraphs. We're going to add one first, and then what we can do is copy this with Control C or Command C and then paste it 3 more times. All right, then we're going to copy over the text from the assets on GitHub on the lesson 1. We're going to copy the first paragraph and add it in here. And we'll do the same with the next 3. Okay, so now we've got all of our paragraphs. I'm just going to do a little bit of styling on this div. It's going to be display flex. I'm going to have a gap of 2 rems here, and I'm going to give a margin bottom of 2 rems as well, because at the bottom of this, we're going to add another link using our link component. And here we're going to pass in pre-render moderate, because the text is going to be go home and the URL is just going to be /. So that is our About page, and we're ready now really to publish and release this project. So to do that, we're going to click on View Changes here to inspect and publish changes. And this lists everything that is changed on this branch since starting the blank template. What I didn't mention before is that when you create a new project from a blank template, you automatically get a new branch created for you. So before we publish this, I'm going to show you that on the home page. So I'm going to go to Dashboard. And right now our app is called Untitled. So we're going to open that project. And this is the start branch that we've been working on. And this is the main branch, which is read only. And that's what's live in production. So currently what's live in production is the blank template that we initiated the project from. And start is the branch we've been working on. So we're going to edit the details here. I'm going to call this Rick's site. You can add a description if you like. And this is the project ID that's automatically assigned when you create it. You can create a new project ID like this, and that will be accessible on the front end on the URL. So I'm going to update that. And again, here is our start branch, and we're going to go and edit it again and have a look at those changes, and then we'll publish. So click on view changes. Here's everything that's changed. Again, this is what we were looking at before. And here is where we're going to add the commit message if you're familiar with Git-based version control. So here we're going to add added home page and about page, added link, main, and PFP components. And then we're going to publish the branch. There's some confetti. And now this is going to be merged into the main branch. So if we view the main branch now here, you'll see that it's what we've been working on and what we just published. So to go back to the dashboard, the project page, we can now click this little button here. You've noticed that we changed the project ID before to Rick Site Linktree. That is now the URL that it's available on. We can click this button to now go and view the live site in production. And here it is. Here it is navigating to the about page. Here's going home. And as you'll see, it's really snappy because we had pre-render on as moderate. And these are all the links that will go externally to Rick's other social presences. Now, if you refresh the dashboard page as well, you'll now see a live preview of your main branch that's been generated for you, and makes it really clear to see what your page is looking like. So that's it. That's lesson 1. We added some HTML elements to a website. We created some reusable components. We styled those with CSS. So in this project, we added 2 static pages, which are pages where you define the URL statically. And in lesson 2, we'll be looking at how we can create some dynamic pages with dynamic URL paths using data from an API. I'll see you there.